Well, unfortunately, we have some terrible breaking news to share on this final day of 2021. Comedian and American icon Betty White has died, just days short of her 100th birthday. CNN has not yet learned a cause of her death, but her life, remarkable and vibrant to the very end. CNN's Stephanie Elam has this remembrance.
It's a good day. How can anything go wrong? 'Cause it's a good day from morning till night.
Betty White's cheerful Hollywood career began in her teens, and by her 20s, she was a fixture on television with her own daily talk show. Ahead of the times, White co-founded her own production company in 1952. She worked on a variety of television and film projects over the years before turning a 1973 guest appearance on The Mary Tyler Moore Show into a permanent role. White was a scene stealer as the man-hungry Sue Ann Nivens.
I think a man should be virile and macho and just reeking with masculinity.
Her second signature role was on the beloved series The Golden Girls as the comical Rose Nyland.
And they attack chickens. I don't care about chickens, Rose. She didn't call me chicken. She called me peacock.
You look more like a chicken when you're angry. Your neck sticks out.
With the Golden Girls, I got to play with those silly ladies every week, and I loved Rose Nyland. She was positive, and she wasn't the sharpest knife in the drawer, but she wasn't dumb. She was just terminally naive.
Off-screen, White married 3 times. She called her third husband, TV host Alan Ludden, the love of her life. They were together almost 20 years before Ludden died of stomach cancer in 1981.
And you never remarried, huh?
Nope. When you've had the best, who needs the rest?
A devoted pet lover, White was a longtime advocate for animal welfare. She called television her hobby and animals her work. Yet her hobby kept her busy. White's talents as an actress and comedian were in demand well into her senior years. Following a grassroots Facebook campaign in 2010, White became the oldest person ever to host Saturday Night Live at the age of 88.
You know what's an accomplishment? Staying awake on the toilet.
The show earned huge ratings and White her 7th Emmy Award. Later that year, White took on another role on TV Land's Hot in Cleveland.
I thought that you weren't coming.
Well, I ran out of vodka, and I thought I'd come over here and freshen up my drunk.
In her 90s, White was as popular as ever with several ongoing film and television projects.
How lucky can a 90-year-old broad be? I have no idea. And I'm still working. That's the thing that's such a thrill.
Love for her warm smile, wit, and off-color humor, White didn't miss a beat when asked if there were any Hollywood projects she'd still like to do.
I usually answer that question with Robert Redford. No, I think I've been lucky enough to do just about so much that if I start complaining about anything under the sun, throw me out of the business.
An unbelievable life and career. CNN senior media correspondent Brian Stelter is here to talk more about the life and legacy of Betty White. You know, Brian, there's a lot of people on the internet talking about the fact that she was just on the cover of People magazine ahead of her 100th birthday with the thought process that she would be around to celebrate that 100th birthday. And that's turned out not to be the case. But regardless, that magazine really outlining what a national treasure she truly is.
Absolutely. And she made some comment to People magazine that I think reflects why she had this extraordinary 80-year career in showbiz. She said, "I've always been an optimist. I was born an optimist. I got it from my mom, and that never changed." She said, "I always find the positive." And I think that is why so many people from so many generations related to Betty White, most recently as the grandma everyone wanted to have. But, you know, Ryan, you go back in time here. She's really an American original, a bridge between generations, beloved by people in their 90s and by 20-somethings alike. Whether you knew her from The Mary Tyler Moore Show or from Golden Girls or more recently from Hot in Cleveland, if you knew her, you loved her. White was a link to the early years of television. She was a link to the origins of television. She actually got her start on radio with a few radio shows in the 1940s, but then made her leap to television in the early 1950s at the birth of the medium when with programs programs were cheap, and they were using these discarded sets. It was the basics of broadcast television, but she popped. She enlivened the television screen and then went on for decades to be a mainstay in people's living rooms, going from broadcast then to cable and then into the streaming age. She was so relatable, and I think you go back to that word positive. She was so positive, brought so much joy and energy to people's lives. That's why, Ryan, I think the other reaction this afternoon that we're seeing on social media is just a rage toward 2021, that this bitter year ends on a bitter note. I think that's the other overwhelming reaction right now as we've lost an American original.
Yeah, pretty incredible that this is the way that 2021 is going to end. And Brian, we talk so much, particularly with the topics that you and I cover, about the divisiveness about American culture, right? It seems as though it is impossible to find anyone who everyone likes. And I feel like Betty White is one of the few people in American culture that fits that bill. Obviously,
that's a great point.
Yeah, she came up during a different period of time where it was maybe a bit easier to find that sweet spot of love amongst a wide group of people. But maybe talk a little bit about that, about how it's increasingly difficult to find someone who everybody has somewhat of a connection with.
I think that's absolutely right. And I think she was very strategic and savvy about keeping her career going and looking for different roles, not just in television, but also in film. She would have cameos in movies. She would have starring roles in movies. She was able to connect in different ways. And her agent acknowledged that in a statement this afternoon, confirming her death. Her agent and close friend saying, even though Betty was about to be 100, I thought she would live forever. I will miss her terribly, and so will the animal world that she loved so much. I don't think Betty ever feared passing, he says, because she always wanted to be with her most beloved husband, Alan Ludden. She believed she would be with him again. So that's the statement from her agent. And you mentioned the People magazine cover, and the agent referring to that as well. She was about to have this big 100th birthday extravaganza. She was on the cover of People magazine previewing that. And she told the magazine that she felt she was in very good health. She was feeling very well. We don't know, as you mentioned, Ryan, we don't know the cause of death, but whatever happened, it apparently was sudden, given that she was profiled recently and said she was doing well.